Tuesday, December 5th. First thing we're going to do is check our grades. And take note that 1/3 of the school year, or 60 out of 180 days, are over with after today. The theme of a fraction is going to come back to us real soon. Our outcomes are review, review, review. So here's a breakdown. We're going to take a look at your grade real quick, talk about that, getting a lot of questions around grades. Then we'll spend a lot of time reviewing and then move on to a blind Kahoot. We're going to transition between topics and use a Kahoot to get there. So understanding your grade. On the left side block, we've got your assignment grade. What happens is the teacher goes into Skyward, clicks Add Assignment, gives it a description, gives it a date and a due date, and then decides on a point value. That value is often determined based on its overall value in the semester, whether it's a big thing or a little thing. And when you get a score based on your success, the teacher decides how much credit you deserve. Often that's determined in a rubric or a way to earn credits, or it's gamified in some way to earn points. And then that number, the number you're given by the teacher, is divided by the total number your teacher decided the assignment was worth. Multiplied by 100 makes it a percent. And the A through F percentage is built into Skyward. What's A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's? Most of you are familiar with that. Your total grade, teacher has one of two choices. They can either go by categories, and that is where at the start of the year your teacher will say, well, like 50% of your grade is made up of tests, the other half is of homework, or 10% of your grade will be participation. In here I don't assign categories, I just kind of mentally take note of where the point totals come from. So we use the second option, and that is total points. So what Skyward does is it adds up all of your scores that you were given by your teacher, and it divides them by the total score that all of the assignments are worth. So it takes every one of those. Let's say we had 10 assignments, each worth 100 points. That makes a total of 1,000. So it takes your score, divides by 1,000. Then multiplies by 100, of course, to get a percent. And there is your overall grade. Mention that because many of you are wondering, how do I improve my grade? Well, let's take our understanding of fractions a little bit and apply it to the situation. If you increase the top number or numerator of a fraction, what happens to that fraction? Well, it gets larger. What happens if you increase the bottom number of a fraction, the denominator? Well, you're chopping it up into smaller pieces, therefore it gets smaller. Well, when I add an assignment, the bottom number gets bigger. If the top number doesn't move with it, your grade goes down. If that top number moves greater than the bottom number, or a higher percentage of what you currently have, your grade goes up. So, in the right side, it says changing your grade. How can you increase the top number of a fraction? Your answer would be to be more successful on your assignments. You don't need extra credit. You don't need any of that other stuff. What you need to do is, if you want your grade to go up, you need to look at the numerators, the scores you receive, and rework them, add to them, do what you need to show success so the score you're given goes up, and therefore your overall grade goes up. So when you ask me what can I do to increase my grade, I'm going to say make the top number go up. All right, quick review on what we've been doing. We started with life, and we talked about all the characteristics of life, and I have a long list of words we may have run across or talked about during that unit. And then from there, we looked at organic compounds. In other words, what is life made out of? Proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids. We talked about why these things are on food labels. So now that we know what life can do and what it's made out of, we then moved on to focus on cells, on that smallest unit of life. And we looked at the organelles, nucleus, control center, whether it has one or not, prokaryotic, eukaryotic, mitochondria, right, our energy factory, our cell membranes, the containers, ribosomes, the protein makers, cell walls, plant bacteria, that should also say fungus, we haven't gotten there yet, chloroplasts in plants, photosynthesis. In white, you've got endoplasmic reticulum, the transport center, the Golgi bodies, the packaging and delivery, the lysosomes, you learned them as the stomach or the maintenance of the cell, vacuoles, the storage, cytoplasm, the liquidy container inside, the factory floor, whatever analogy we used to help you understand it. The top ones are kind of grade because they're more of the middle school focus. They basically want to make sure you understand the difference between a plant and an animal cell, and that the cells need mitochondria for energy, they need ribosomes to make materials, and the other stuff they kind of say for high school. Then we moved on over to the processes, and this is where we got the egg and vinegar, and we did some things to it to show you passive transport, the movement of water in and out. The egg got bigger, the egg got smaller. Diffusion, we used food coloring to show how the color can move across in and out into the egg and then back out into the water. We talked about active transport, ways that cells can use some of their own energy to help molecules across the membrane. We took some time to look at cell division. We said, if cells come from other cells, how do you go from one cell to more than one cell? And in eukaryotic organisms, we looked at mitosis, or your body or somatic cells that make copies, and meiosis, the unique situation in which sex cells produce not just two identical cells, but 4 cells with slight variances in their genetics, and that accounts for the differences between all of us, and what a good thing that is. And that's pretty much it up to this point. And then we're going to move on to the blind Kahoot and examine simple life forms before we move into a little bit of the human body.